Well, that theme has been signalling the start of our movie segment with Colin Briggs for the past few years. As you may know, Colin passed away last night after a battle with cancer. Now, if Colin was here tonight, I know he'd like to talk about one of his favourite movie stars, Anne Sothern. And we will. But firstly, let me tell you a few things about Colin himself. Colin was born in Brisbane, grew up here, and from a very early age was drawn to the movies and to musical theatre. Like many aspiring performers, he moved to Sydney because at that time, Sydney offered more opportunities in the entertainment business than Brisbane. He spent many years in Sydney on stage and producing shows. Colin began sending letters to some of the biggest names in the movie world when he himself was very young. Many replied, and over the years he travelled many times to the United States, where he formed friendships with many stars of the golden years of Hollywood. One such star was Anne Sothern. As with many other stars, Colin became a friend of Anne Sothern by correspondence. This correspondence began in 1949, and his initial letter was the beginning of a regular exchange between the two of them until 1973. It was in 1973 that they met at Anne's home in Beverly Hills, California, and their loving friendship continued until her passing in 2001. That first of many, many meetings over subsequent years was a dream come true for Colin. Anne knew of his musical career and asked him to sing for her, which he did, a little nervously at first, as his accompanist was Anne herself. The song was The Impossible Dream, and Anne was mightily impressed to such an extent that she expressed the wish that he would move to the United States and she would champion his career there. Anne once said to Colin, "You really should write a book about me, Colin. You know more about me than I do." Well, that dream came true, and thankfully just in time for Colin to see it. Colin's book, Cordially Yours, Anne Sothern, has now been published in the United States. Advance copies were forwarded to Colin, and it looks wonderful. Over 300 pages with approximately 170 photographs, all supplied by Colin from his personal collection. His publisher emailed Colin a few days ago and said he believes it's going to be very popular and will be one of the first of their publications to be made available other than on the internet in various bookstores in the United States. The book title, Cordially Yours, Anne Sothern, was chosen by Colin as Anne will often sign pictures for fans in that fashion. Anne Sothern was a gifted actress, excelling in drama, comedy and musicals. Musical film highlights include Lady Be Good, in which she introduced the Academy Award-winning song The Last Time I Saw Paris. Words and Music, the rather fanciful biography of the fabulous Richard Rodgers and Larry Hart. Panama Hattie, the film version of the Ethel Merman Broadway hit, which also starred Red Skelton. April Showers with Jack Carson and Nancy Goes to Rio, in which Anne portrayed a musical comedy star and the mother of Jane Powell. Anne was the star of MGM's hilarious smash hit series of Maisie films, number 10 in all, a role for which she'll always be identified. Dramatic highlights include Sylvia with Carol Baker and George Maharis, Lady in a Cage with Olivia de Havilland, and the original and wonderful classic A Letter to Three Wives, in which she played the wife of Kirk Douglas. Anne said they sometimes rehearsed at home on that one. Anne's foray into television starred her in the smash hit series Private Secretary and The Anne Sothern Show, and later she provided the voice of the car in My Mother, the Car. Extensive stage appearances include The Glass Menagerie, for which she received glowing reviews for her portrayal of Amanda Wingfield. The Duchess of Pasadena, which played a lengthy repeat season in Chicago due to its popularity, and Mame in Honolulu, for which Anne garnered absolute raves and nightly ovations, which went on forever. The cost of the book is $24.95 US, plus postage in the US of $10. You can look it up on the internet, www.bearmanormedia.com, BEARMANORMEDIA.com, and just click on the name Anne Sothern. Colin Briggs loved to entertain. He and Gordon Hunter put together an entertainment troupe simply called A Touch of Sparkle. They perform shows for senior citizens groups, retirement homes, and anyone who wanted to be entertained. I know there'll be many listening tonight who were privileged to see Colin and the troupe perform. Colin was a gentleman, a gentleman, a man who cared about people, a man with old-fashioned values and old-fashioned values, and old-fashioned manners. Colin and Gordon would come to my place for dinner, and the next day, a thank you note would arrive. That was Colin Briggs, always caring, always sharing, always giving. He loved this radio segment simply because he could share his amazing knowledge of film with us. I don't know anyone who knew as much about films and film stars from that golden era as Colin. And his knowledge, more often than not, came without reference to an encyclopedia. He was just amazing. Tonight was to have been Colin's final broadcast. He knew his health wouldn't have allowed him to continue into the new year. When he realised that he wouldn't be able to speak to you tonight, he wrote a simple farewell that I'd like to read to you. I send my love to Ian, Faith and the 4BC team, and most especially to the chums and faithful listeners to my weekly broadcast with Ian, which has been one of the great pleasures and highlights of my life. Au revoir. Well, I can tell you, having Colin as a regular on this program has been one of the great pleasures and highlights of my life, surpassed only by the privilege of knowing him as a friend. Rest in peace, Colin Briggs.